Welcome, everyone, to the first annual Summer Solstice Rally to Stop Geoengineering. Thank you so much for coming out. It's so very important that we gathered here today. This is the very beginning of something. It's an absolute honor to be surrounded by so many like-minded, truth-seeking, amazing, beautiful human beings. I've already met so many of you, and you're all so sweet and lovely and kind, and it's really just a blessing. I'm so pleased and honored, and we got a good turnout. There could always be more, but this is beautiful. This is very wonderful. Thank you. Did you all know that the UK government has announced officially, finally, that they will be dimming the sun with solar geoengineering? Can you believe it? Yes, it's a little validation for us, the truthers, but it's also normalizing it and what's next, right? But they have announced it publicly now. And this Monday, UK Parliament meets to discuss this topic as if it's a brand new idea. Ha ha. Well, I hate to break it to you, but geoengineering has been going on for many decades. It goes by many names. Some will call it SAI, which stands for stratospheric aerosol injections. Others will call it SRM, an acronym for solar radiation management. The UK government likes to call it SATAN. Not even kidding. Yes, Satan, an acronym for the Stratospheric Aerosol Transport and Nucleation Program. This is serious. Some call it weather warfare. Others call it weather engineering, climate engineering, geoengineering, and also chemtrails. Whatever terminology you give it, it's a crime against humanity, it's a crime against all life on Earth, and it must be stopped. And we are here to tell the world, to show the world that we do not consent. They say that they need to launch this supposed new idea of geoengineering to slow down global warming, climate change. But we know that's a lie. It couldn't be further from the truth. In a classic problem, reaction, solution paradigm that we find ourselves in, they are actually, yet again, giving us the problem as the solution. They manipulate, they manufacture the weather with floods, with heat, with drought, with hurricanes, with tornadoes, you name it. And then they say, oh, look, climate change, we've got to do something about it. We've got your solution for you. It's geoengineering. Meanwhile, they are geoengineering the climate catastrophe to get their paradigm, problem, reaction, solution paradigm in order so that the normies, so that the world can think that the government is there to save them. Well, what really is climate change? Well, climate is defined as 30 years of weather. And when did we all start to witness these tic-tac-toe boards, or you call it here noughts and crosses, grid patterns, X's of chemtrails in our sky? Around 1995, let's be honest. Look at your family photos, go back to the 80s, they weren't there. Okay, so 30 years ago, they started geoengineering our weather to create the illusion of a changed climate. Think about it. Yet here we are, and they're posing it as our solution. Many people come to me, they say, Matt, what can actually be done about this? Does activism even matter? My answer is this: Monsanto. There was a time when none of us knew the word Monsanto, but activists, they played their part. They got loud. They rose the consciousness on the issue. At first, Monsanto, they tried to get their grubby, dirty claws into our food supply quietly. But activists spoke up, and their voices were heard. Finally, on May 25th, 2013, March Against Monsanto was formed, and I'm sure many of you, truth seekers, were there for that. March Against Monsanto rallied in 400 cities simultaneously worldwide. They rallied together and they created annual protests worldwide and started a movement. And they shifted the consciousness on the issue, and now we have choice. We have labels. We don't have choice in the air that we breathe. But activists got loud, their voices were heard, they made a difference, and they raised the consciousness on the Frankenfoods. And we too, just as they did, will raise the consciousness on the Frankenskies. Surprisingly, still, this is a topic that many turn a blind eye to, or even scoff at, and shame on them. Because this topic is the foundation for so many lies and agendas. It lays the foundation for climate change, the lie. Global warming, the lie. The agendas of net zero. The sustainability agenda of Agenda 2030. By waking up the people and playing our part, the lies that have become so pervasive can become obvious. Just as many truths, if you can raise your consciousness to the vibration of truth, that is the reality of the chemtrails, other truths become self-evident. And in shifting the consciousness on our Frankenskies, the world will wake up. We gather here today. Thank you again so much. I'm so happy and thankful that you all came. Just imagine me speaking here alone. We gather here today to not just honor the sun on summer solstice, the longest day of sunshine. We gather to honor the sun, the giver of all life. But also, we gather to honor our ancestors, those who fought to give us the rights we still do have. We gather to honor the next generation, and I'm so happy to see some children here today. We gather to honor the next generation, those who have yet to even be born. Because it is up to us what gets passed down. And I don't know about you, but I absolutely refuse to pass down to my children a blocked out sun. So my geoengineering awakening story is much like everyone else's, you know. Everyone has a story. Like, try to think back how it happened for you. Maybe it was a friend, maybe it was a documentary, maybe it was Sheep Farm podcast, God bless them. Who knows what it was, but we all have our moment. Maybe someone just planted that seed. Maybe you walked by a rally or saw a sticker, like Francis said, and yes, I was listening, I love you, thank you. So, my story, which, you know, at the time, you don't think it's anything, right? You're just going through your life. I had moved to California. I'm from the States. And thank you all for welcoming me to your countries. It's just lovely to be here. It really is an absolute pleasure, and you've all been so lovely and kind. And even the police seem like they're being so sweet. So thank you for letting us have this rally. And keep the peace and all that sort of stuff. And we're only going to be here till like 4:30, so thank you for not busting it up. Yeah, your question. Yeah. Sorry. I was in grad school, and I was lamenting on the phone to a friend. And I was there at the time. Oh, I just felt a raindrop. I was lamenting on the phone to a friend back home. I was 30 years old. Right now I'm 44. I was saying, these kids, I was back in college, right? University. I was like, these kids, they don't know anything about the truth. I try to tell them about 9/11, and they're like, mate, I wasn't even born yet. I don't really care. And I'm like, no, you need to know. It was an inside job, right? The government did it, in case y'all don't know that. And he says, yeah, well, cut them some slack. You know, some of them were like hardly born. Maybe they were 2 years old. They don't have the drive that you have. Like, I was living in D.C. at the time. I grew up right outside D.C. My girlfriend lived in New York at the time. She was going to university right next door to the Twin Towers. I was glued to the TV that day. I was emotionally involved. And then when I finally did see a documentary about it and started to wake up, it changed my life. And that was the beginning of my awakening. So I told my friend all about it, and he tells me on the phone at the time, you know, Matt, you woke me up to 9/11. That was great, but you can't shame them for not knowing about 9/11. But what about the chemtrails? Haha, it's right in everyone's faces. And I say, what's that? This is a phone call with a friend. That's all it was. And he's not a truther. He's not an activist. He's pretty mainstream, this guy, right? I mean, during lockdowns, surely, God bless him, he's not like us, just to say that. But he planted the seed. And I said, what's chemtrails? This is about 12 years ago. And he said, Matt, you woke me up to 9/11. Go look it up, bro. I go home. I type it in the computer. And I see these photos. Well, shortly thereafter, I'm working on a farm. I mean, I was working on a farm at the time, but shortly thereafter, I'm working on a farm, and we're in the midst of a catastrophic 4-year drought in Northern California where we get a seasonal deluge every year. We usually get like 4 straight months of rain, and we hadn't had rain for 4 years. So my farmer, Paul, he comes out and he says, we're getting rain tomorrow. Bring your rain boots, bring your rain jacket. We're going to be harvesting all the pumpkins in the field so they don't rot. So I come to work, and where I lived was right on the ocean, and where I worked was right on the ocean. And we're out there with our rain gear, harvesting the pumpkins, and on the edge of this massive storm, we're supposed to get a 100% chance of rain for a week. And on the edge of this massive storm, where all these storm clouds are coming in off the ocean, black storm clouds, we're about to get a deluge, you know, we're going to get a week-long rain. All of a sudden, these planes showed up. And this is very rural Northern California where we didn't have air traffic. Maybe one day on the farm for a whole day I'd see one plane fly over. And those planes never left persistent, linear, cirrus cloud formations coming out of the back of the plane. They never did. They never left the geoengineering, chemtrails, SRM, SAI, SATAN, whatever you want to call it. So I witnessed something firsthand. It was about 12, maybe 15 planes. They zigzagged the sky. They left lines in the sky. And as the storm came into the haze that they left, the storm didn't drop any rain. So I had this seed planted by a friend, and then I witnessed it firsthand. And that's the power of the seed. We can all be seed planters. We don't have to be activists. We don't have to be filmmakers. We don't have to be speakers. We could just be seed planters by telling a friend, by putting up a sticker, by passing out a flyer, or maybe just having the difficult conversation with a coworker, a peer, a family member, in a grounded way, meeting them where they're at, in a grounded fashion, planting that seed, and then later that metaphorical soil will be fertile and the seed can sprout. So then I went home and I started really digging into it, and the rest is history. I started making flyers and made the movie and all this sort of stuff, but I had to witness something firsthand, and I had to have that seed planted, and we can all be seed planters. So be encouraged to try to play your part, and don't be shy. Everybody needs to play their part in this great awakening, and we all need each other to make this happen. Thank you.
More questions. Keep going. It says we can use 2 mics.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the questions that always comes up, Matt, is how do the people spraying us get away without suffering from the effects of the spraying? How do they avoid that?
So I get this question a lot, like, why would they do that to themselves? That exact line, why would they do that to themselves, I've heard over 100 times, if not thousands of times, because it's like mentally you're like, why would they do that to themselves? Well, we're dealing with a new world order agenda where there's elite. I mean, even if the officers are listening, there's higher ups and higher ups and higher ups. The people in the middle, they're on a need-to-know basis. They're compartmentalized. They think that they're saving the world by blocking out our sun, you know. But the higher ups that are really in charge, they know it's being sprayed, when and where. They have med beds, they had blood transfusions, they have HEPA filters in their limos, they have doomsday bunkers. They have the resources to have the anecdotes to be able to cleanse themselves of these things while we're here in the dark wondering what's being sprayed. We've got to test our soil, test our rain, test our food. Oh, wait, and then finally we cross-reference the patents. Sorry, I call them patents. And I'll butcher aluminum a few times, bear with me, because we call it aluminum. But we test our things, and we finally come up, oh, they're spraying aluminum, barium, strontium. Like, it takes us ages to even come up with that. But there's more in the spray. You know, we had some toxic fog come in over the winter, and people got sick, and it woke some people up. The more they do the spraying, the more people wake up. So it's like they can't keep people from waking up by doing what they're doing. This billboard right here, "We were liars." I want to point that out. We were liars. It's on the buses.
Matt,
That's real.
Next question.
Just saying. Okay, next question.
We've got to rattle through it. There's more people want to talk.
Yeah. Sorry.
What was the question I was going to ask now? Oh yeah, but people always ask as well, is it passenger planes?
So that's a common misconception. It's not the passenger planes. And believe me, I've devoted my life to this. I've been researching it for over a decade. At first I thought it was. It must be. Look at the markings on the plane. And I got a telescopic lens. Look at the plane. That's United Flight 247. If you were a trillionaire and you had $1 trillion doomsday bunker and you were in the New World Order club, the Bilderberg group, the Club of Rome, you know, whatever you want to call it, you would be very smart about this. Just think about it. They have these boardrooms, they come together, they plan this out for decades to keep us in the dark. There's a flight tracker app that people download, and then they look up and they're like, oh, that's flight number whatever, going over to Amsterdam. No, I'm sorry. The billionaires, trillionaires, the ones doing the spraying, they own those things. I mean, come on, would Bill Gates really let that thing exist? He would have bought it by now. Like, just think about it, right?
You mean the app there? They own the app, yeah.
Yeah, so there's an app, there's a flight tracker app that you can get, and it can show you what the planes are, and then you can be like, oh, that's United Flight 246 going over to wherever, and that's doing the spraying, therefore the passenger jets do the spraying. And then sometimes there's maybe a whistleblower that says, oh, yeah, the pilots do the spraying or whatever. There's so much control in this narrative. I encourage people to trust your own discernment, trust your gut, but don't be fooled.
Matt, so what are the planes then if they're not the planes on the tracker app?
So it's top secret. Like, imagine, how come there's not 1 million people here today? Because the lies are so pervasive. There is military craft, primarily unmanned. There's drones. There's an aftermarket for airline planes. Just like how you can go and buy like an old rental car that maybe still has the tags on it. That doesn't mean you rented a rental car, you bought that thing. In the States, you can get an old police car, and it still has the little light on the side, but it's not a police car because I'm driving it around. I'm not a cop, you know what I mean? So there's an aftermarket for old airline planes. They leave the markings on it, or they just get their drone and put the markings on it to keep us confused. But the narrative that it is coming out of LaGuardia or Heathrow or whatnot, and that it's passenger jets, it is false. And I hate to break it to you, but considering all of the funding and all the money they put into this, they have covered all their bases. They have drones, they're primarily unmanned, and it's not coming from the passenger jets, and that's a big question a lot of people ask me.
What is the difference between the long trails and the short trails? Are the short trails contrails and the long trails chemtrails? Can you talk about that for us?
So this is a common misconception, and I'm glad you brought that up, Francis. Just because the trails are short doesn't mean it's okay. All right? So to manufacture this today, the hottest day of the year, you could have watched the sky yesterday or the day before, or the day before, or the day before. And I witnessed it firsthand because I've been in London now for a few days, and I witnessed it for ages now. They're mixing chemicals in our atmosphere, okay? The short trails are a type of chemical. The medium trails, they're a type of chemical. The long trails are a type of chemical. They're using the atmosphere as a laboratory. That's a NASA quote. NASA has a budget of $80 million per day. They have a chemtrail program called CARE, C-A-R-E. They don't care. It's called the Charged Aerosol Release Experiment, where they have planes and drones and ground-based stations and a lot of resources going into making noctilucent clouds where they spray aluminum, barium, and strontium. If you look into it, NASA is part of the agenda, but the short trails are also nefarious, and they are especially used to create heat. Oftentimes, if you keep your eye to the sky, you'll see side by side, or just in the wake of the other plane, you'll see a long trail and then a short trail. They're mixing chemicals together. Maybe you'll see it on a Facebook video or on social media or something. The short trails, I'm pretty sure they're barium. The long trails, I'm pretty sure they're aluminum. But that's aside from the fact the short trails are also worth looking into. But that's the confusion tactic, and that's the con of the contrail. Oh no, that's just a contrail, and oh no, that one's persistent because of atmospheric pressure and whatnot. No, they're mixing chemicals in our sky to pull out all these things, whether it's make rain, not make rain, dim the sun, mess with our crops, whatever it is. But keep an eye on those short trails and think for yourself.
Wait. The last question then is, about, we've seen some extreme weather events, and we have the net zero agenda. And how do the chemtrails tie in with that from your experience of what you've been seeing, especially in the United States at the moment?
So in the United States at the moment, we have fires, which is part of the agenda. But even let's talk about today first. Today is the hottest day of the year. And how did they make it the hottest day of the year with their geoengineering? Well, every night I've witnessed in London, they come out and spray, and they have this chemical haze dropping and holding the heat from the day. So the first day will be 28, the next high. The next day will be 30 high. The next day will be 32 high. And today was supposed to be 33. I don't even think that's going to happen, but they'll say it. They'll say it. They'll just say it, and people will believe it so that they can say, oh, look, global warming, climate change, bullocks, we need to dim your sun. You're welcome. But they use the chemicals to create heat waves or heat, hot days. And so what they do is different things. They can spray the sky and then zap them with NextRad-based stations like HARP, which is it's pretty advanced, but they use microwaves to microwave the sky after they spray the aluminum. It's like putting aluminum in the microwave. So they superheat the sky to near the temperature of the sun, and then now you have hot, high pressure and heat. But especially what they'll do is on a warm day, they'll blanket the sky with chemicals, and when that heat's supposed to be released at night, you have a chemical haze keeping that heat from releasing, and then the next day is warmer. It's pretty simple. But in the States, what we have right now are fires, where I live. And now we have this thing called fire season, which is like year-round. But what they spray on our trees, and they've been doing it for now decades, is aluminum oxide and barium salts. And these are patented fire accelerants. So we've got fire accelerants sprayed on our forest, embedded in our trees. That's not going to be good for forest fires. Also, what the aluminum does is it messes up the biology of the soil. It makes it highly alkaline. So the biological chemistry of the soil is not balanced, and then fungus and whatnot can grow, and the soil makes it so that the trees cannot be healthy. Also, the aluminum is a desiccant, so it's drying out the trees. And then it's also breaking down the immune system of these trees. And where we have tree die-offs that are even next to streams and rivers, and people are scratching their heads, not knowing what's going on. And then when the fires come, which they can hire arsons or precipitate lightning, what have you, with their technology. Interesting that this is happening randomly today. When the fires come, there is the technology to make rain on top of these fires, but instead they geoengineer wind on top of these fires. So look out for this in coming years, because Agenda 2030 involves making rain. They're making it rain now. Making fires and then pushing people out of areas because it's fire prone. And they say, oh, you can't live here anymore because it's so fire prone. They're engineering this situation by spraying the aluminum on the trees, making it so they're dried out, putting patented fire accelerants on the trees, lighting the fires, creating high winds, directional on the fires, even directing the winds towards places like Palisades, Los Angeles, Lahaina, California, Talent in Phoenix, Oregon, Paradise, California, Lahaina, Maui, and they're taking out areas, and then the mainstream narrative is, oh, it's climate change or global warming. It's them. It's the New World Order green agenda creating this climate catastrophe by design to push people off the land. And it's not just going to end with the United States and Canada. It looks like it might rear its ugly head here, and it's time people wake up to it. It's your turn, love.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. So please, if you have any more questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. I've heard it all. I've been on about 1,000 podcasts, and I'm pretty well versed in this topic. This is my passion. This is my life. I've dedicated my life to this thing. Frankenskies@gmail.com. Please check it out. Also check out the website stopgeoengineeringlondon.co.uk. You can upload your photos and videos from the day. I've also got a website, actualactivists.com. And if you haven't seen the movie that I made about this topic, it's called Frankenskies. It's available everywhere for free. It starts off in the 1920s, goes through the whole timeline of it. You can share it with your friends and family, even show them the first 10 minutes, and they'll change their perspective on the world that we live in. I'm making a sequel. Hopefully it'll be out by the end of the year. Thank you very much.